Yo, what's up, everybody? It's Jack. I was going. You have not heard the last from me because you either know or you don't. Yes, I'm wearing the same thing because I'm shooting these back to back, trying to give you guys more content. Deciding how I'm going to drop them. Probably going to go day by day. I kind of want to smush these Triad videos together, so that's why I'm kind of doing them back to back. But today we're going to talk about the second Triad. Yeah, I don't want to say anymore. Let's just get right into the intro. Let's go.
Ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. 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 I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the deal, bruh? See how I lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people will fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything that get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach, to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Welcome back. So let's get right into it. Dude, I'm not even prepared. All right, so I wanted to talk about freaking it's right here. I wanted to talk about the second Triad. So if you remember from part one of the video where I talk about Magicula and how I believe her oranges and Lilith and all that, I know it was all crazy. Then you already know that we're talking about demons / Sephiroth that are going down the middle of the Tree of Life and Clipoth and all that stuff. So the second one, we know the first one is Lilith. The second one is the Concealers of God, or the Concealment of God. This is the South Rael, and the demon that resides here is Belphegor. I'm just going to. Do I want to? I'll read some descriptions of this particular demon. So, one is, even as Bina, which is, freaking, I just read the freaking, what, Dagirian's reflection, of Clipoth. Even as Bina is the great revealing one who bestows the structure of, the absolute onto the created, its opposite, the South Rael, conceals the nature of the perfect. The cortex or outer form of the South Rael is called the Order of Shirael, the hairy ones of God. And they also call him Lucifuge. And if you guys don't already know, I do say this, and I believe the video where I talk about the Lesser Key of Solomon, Eno's Pendant, and Grimoires and the purpose of them, and the Grand Grimoire, is that any variation of the word Lucifer, so there's Lucifuge, there's Lucifuge Rocal, there is a separate Lucifero, but not really popular in lore and not relevant lore, I would say. But any variation from Lucifer is not Lucifer, but instead works for Lucifer in a higher capacity. So I did want to make that clear, but I did say that in the other video as well. So they do refer to this one as Lucifuge as well. To South Rael, Lucifuge is attributed and means to flee from light. Early texts use the entity's proper name as Lucifuge Rofocal. Okay, so now I'm going to get into this description, which is a little more detailed. So this one resides in the clip called Thagirian. And this one says, the essence of this demonic nature becomes apparent if one truly tries to understand the meaning of beauty. They take shape in any force that creates confusion rather than fusion of heart and mind. With that said, this is the second Triad, Belphegor. And I believe Belphegor is who Dante's demon actually is. And I know that sounds crazy because they straight up say Lucifero. You can say anything and it can be a lie. And demons are known for lying. But there are a lot of reasons why I do think this ends up falling into the case. So let's look at who he's possessing. And I think this is probably the best horse in my race so far. Is that Dante considers himself a higher class of being. He believes he's superior in every way. He wears this giant crown on his head because he believes he is the king. He's out here trying to take women left and right, if they're arcane at least. He's running a kingdom. He believes he deserves the best. He believes he is the best. So imagine a demon that is not as high as Lucifer approaching, or an unnamed demon that he doesn't even know about, approaching him somehow, going like, hey, I need your body, Dante's not going to go for anything less than, the highest, the best. And of course, you're going to go for the one that sounds like Lucifer, like, oh, I heard of you. Like, yeah, we're going to mess this, we're wrecking shit right now. Like, yeah, he's going to do it because that's what he thinks he deserves. Now, let's talk about his viewpoints on a lot, humans, really. He believes that humans are like evil and the true nature of them is evil. His view on them is so entirely warped, he's completely abandoned the thought of beauty. And if we look at what he turns into via his magic, he's completely abandoned the entire idea of beauty. He becomes the most ugly being you can probably imagine. So, for Belphegor's effect to conceal himself and take shape of Lucifer would be easier because, well, Dante doesn't really have a concept of beauty and he denies it. He's not trying to understand it. He believes in what he believes in. So to approach him as Lucifer in the form of Lucifer is feasible to do. No, I can't do that. I got to make a third part of this video. Do I do it? Damn it. All right. I'm going to do it. This is going to be, instead of a 3-part, it's going to be a 2 and 3. So, to kind of wrap up this Lucifero actually being Belphegor, the liar, the concealer, I should say, we do see him coming out of Liabe. And to me, the shape looks a bit different. There's minor, differences that we see between that form that he took with Liabe and the form that we see him as with Dante. And I think one of the most notable things that I have right now is the teeth. Lucifer or Belphegor's teeth they're shorter and squared off, whereas Lucifero's teeth coming out of Liabe were a lot sharper. And you could chalk that up to maybe like it was more of an ethereal shape that he took, so it probably varied a bit. Totally. We can go with that if you want. But at the same time, we know that the Triad have been with their devils for a long time. And at this point, we have to assume that Lucifero was already, or Belphegor, Lucifero, would have already been with Dante at this point, but is now channeling himself through Liabe. And not to say that it's completely irrational that he could do two things, but I would assume that takes a lot of energy. You're going all the way to the world of the living. If he's really Lucifero, he's siphoning power through, on his level, would have to be 6 levels of seals to get to Dante. I would have to assume that takes a lot out of somebody, even if you're a demon. And then to channel through someone, and he says something that I also want to note too, is that he can channel himself through lower level demons. And this is going to go into my shame video that I may or may not do. There's a theory that might have been right, and I don't like the theory. But here's the thing. Lucifero channeled himself through a being that was able to escape hell and reach the world of the living without a contract. This is a very memorable moment for someone who is going to be trapped in hell forever, or until they can find someone to make a contract with somehow. And he's on the lowest level, so this is going to take a lot of energy to do so. And if every demon is striving to get to the world of the living, and Lucifero literally says, I can use this boy's body and find someone to make a contract with and, wreak havoc from then on out. How is he going to forget who the AMD is when he approaches Asta? Now, there was a really good point made when I posted this on Twitter, where this person says that he may not have known because the Liebe didn't have anti-magic, which is probably true. Liebe probably doesn't have anti-magic right now. And that is a very valid argument to make. But I do want to counter it with the fact that, like I said, you are doing nothing but sitting in hell, and you know that only 2 demons have escaped so far. One was Zagrid, and the other one was Liebe. And you're not going to forget that Liebe, you channeled yourself through Liebe, and then you got bodied by the woman who was raising him. You're not going to forget those series of events. I'm sorry, I don't care what anyone says, you were definitely not going to forget that. So, I think he lied. Now, to go into this, why this Belphegor figure may not know either is because he's on the same level as a certain... Damn it, this video is going to be way longer than I thought. No. So, I'm just going to say it outright. The theory of freaking... The theory of Liebe being the parallel to Astaroth is probably right. It's my least favorite theory, but and it makes sense too. Damn it. Anyway, Astaroth, his very brief description is that he is known for spreading himself so thin that he breaks because he's so kind and tender. They say those words. And it definitely describes Liebe, and his name is also Love, given to him by the woman that we believe is Asta's mom. All right. Don't have to make a shame video. I don't like that theory, and I still think my theory stands, but there is definitely now more going towards this Astaroth theory. Now, to get back into what I was saying, Belphegor and Astaroth are on the same level of Clipoth, meaning that there's no way Belphegor would be able to take over Liebe, and for this Lucifero / Belphegor to not remember and not be able to channel himself through this demon either, says that they are not, or the AMD is not lower than him. Now, is it maybe because, the demon's in the Grimoire, or Liebe's in the Grimoire now, that, they can't channel through? Possibly. But I also think that, this is really buying, putting him in the Grimoire really bought him more time, because Lucifero did say he sifted through a lot of demons to find him. So he would have to do that. And imagine doing that out of, again, going through 6 layers of hell, of being sealed. And imagine the kind of BS you're going through as a demon, like Liebe, clearly illustrates. Even though he's not a lowly demon, there's probably a lot of distractions. I don't know. And not to mention, he could have just given up and tried to find a better way to get a contract. Who knows? He could be in on this plan with the Triad, but he is not there in a Triad, because I don't think he'd be able to find a vessel that easily. We're talking about Lucifer, you guys. I don't think it's going to happen like that. So he could be just waiting, you know what? I don't need the kid anymore. We have the Triad doing the work here. Once they open up the gates, I can come out in full form, and I don't have to worry about, finding this kid and, using him to do that. So that could definitely be happening. I could be wrong, but let's get into the third Triad. And the third Triad is not even a Triad. Technically a Triad. So they go out of the way to state that this is called a pseudo-Triad. And we're going to get into the light side of the pseudo-Triad, because there's something that I thought was really weird, that I always thought was weird, but I never really questioned in depth until now. So, as you probably already know, we're going to talk about Zenon's demon. Now, if we look at this picture right here, we see that there are stars. We have the Star of David, and then we have the Satanic Star, which is just inverted. And this star is called Doth. And what's kind of funny is that it's called Doth on both sides, but they go out of their way to say Belial as well. So we know Belial is on the same level as Lucifer. In the clip-off that Noct paints, Belial is actually just a little bit higher, which means Lucifer is a bit stronger than Belial. Of course, he would be, right? But they're on the same level of the clip-off, right here. And I'm just going to read you guys a description, and I look, it makes sense, you guys. I'm telling you, it makes sense. All right. So Doth is the pathway to knowledge. So think of the inverse. So Belial is the blocking passage of knowledge and creates the notion that knowledge is an end in and of itself. And I kind of want to spend a little time on that, because look at Zenon's personality. Imagine a guy who is searching for the truth. Or more answers and more information, and finds these devils. And I think the backstory of the Triad is going to be really key to all of this. But I do think Zenon ends up coming into some information, finds Belial, and now we have this dull expression, because now he knows a lot and nothing really satisfies him anymore. But, when he sees we finally see a mage with a 4-leaf clover and a spirit who fuses with a spirit, who, like, pretty amazing stuff. You don't see that ever. And as far as the Triad have lived, it's probably a very, very new experience, so that did excite him a lot more. Now, it goes on to say this very specific quote, which I think just drives the nail home here. So it says, when curiosity changes to greed for knowledge, one loses the actual intent of one's spiritual journey and gets caught in an ivory tower of secret information. If you guys peep the word ivory, if you think of like an elephant's tusk, which is part of its skeletal structure, and if we're paralleling this with a black clover, Zenon's magic is what? Bone magic. I don't know what else to say. Like, it has to be Belial for this reason. And I know it's not like a new idea that it's Belial, but no one had ever bothered to go in depth about it, which is why I never take theories seriously unless there's a lot of information backing it. And I think this is enough reason to believe that Belial and Zenon are together on this. So, I'm going to briefly read the description of the Sephiroth of Doth, which is the light side, and then kind of go back to Belial really quick, but then talk about the light side. And we're going to talk. So the description is traditionally known as knowledge, an entrance and exit point for the influence of the first Triad, which is Keter, who would be licked in this situation, to manifest in creation. So the difference between Doth on the Sephiroth and Doth on the Tree of Death is that Doth on the Sephiroth only connects the first Triad and the second Triad, whereas Doth on the Clip-Off connects the first, second, and third Triads. So here's what I'm getting into, is that when we say they're the exit and entrance points, look at the magic that Zenon's devil has. It's like teleportation portal magic. He's literally connecting different parts of space together. Okay, so very literal translation to that. Very little parallel. Now, every time Zenon and his demon are mentioned, they do make Zenon kind of a big deal. And, a lot of people made fun of, other people noticing it. But in one of the more recent chapters, it shows Noct talking about the Triad. And Zenon has a bigger portion of the panel. And people are like, oh, no, they just threw Zenon down. I don't think Tabata is that unintentional of a writer. I think they mean what they mean. And every time Zenon is shown, it's a really, really big deal. And I think the reason is that Zenon knows that, that's not Lucifero. Because he connects Lucifero with Belphegor and with Magicula, which are the first and second Triad. So he could be, or not, he doesn't connect Lucifer, I'm sorry, he actually connects Moloch and Satan. So I think he has like some other deeper knowledge happening, which will be interesting if this happens to be the case, to see what all of that knowledge leads to. But like I said, he probably knows, like, all right, my brother's being lied to. That is not Lucifero. And, like, holding him, like, yeah, he's got slumped because you're not the strongest Triad member, my friend. Like, I should have took this one. And so, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about this, because I want to talk about the light side before I run over, like, 20 minutes. Now, the light side of Doth, I always found this so weird, because it was like, okay, we got to look at Patri really quick, because Patri was loved by Mana, got 4-leaf clover, had light magic, he got everything going for him. If Licht was gone, he was next in charge. Like, he is that strong. He had that kind of clout, but he wasn't an apostle. It was like, what are you doing? And until now, it makes sense, because, like it says, it's the entrance and exit point for the influence of the first Triad, Keter, which is Licht. So they need him in order to, like, manifest this whole thing, to create. Think of like a generator. Generates more power into these sections. So while he's not taking up a specific seat on a section of the Sephiroth, he is essentially boosting that power that Licht is passing down to create this influence. So I thought it was really interesting. So I do believe in the future we'll probably see what's his name, Patri and Zenon showdown with possibly as well, which should be pretty interesting. Like, what a duo to have. And might have more questions now that we know, or we're going to come to know that they had twins. Teti had twins, and one died. So whose power did I get? Would be a really valid question to ask Patri, and I think he would be the closest to getting more knowledge to that, since he's probably more connected to the Dryad than anyone else would be. But other than that, I think that's really all I got on this. I know all this sounds like crazy, but Tabata is going crazy on us, so I got to get even crazier to kind of keep up and like keep the noggin going. But if you liked what you heard in this video, let me know in the comment section below. Like the channel. Unlike it if you didn't like it. It's fine. Won't hurt my feelings. Follow me on Twitter. Don't follow me. Again, won't hurt my feelings. Do what you do. Do what makes you happy. This has been Jack Hosts to Go. Thank you for sticking around. You either know or you don't.